So nice to see you all. My name is Jackson Osborne. I'm the outreach manager for the Bluegrass Trust. I am going to just let you know that this is our last in-person deTour until April. All of them will be done virtually from then on. So you'll be able to access them if you are a subscriber to our email blast list, or follow us on social media, or if you call our office and ask, where are the virtual detours? And we've got an exciting one planned for January that is going to be about Lexington's new digital access project. And to learn more about that, you can come up and talk to me or our deTour committee member, Brenna Pye, or one of these students who helped make it happen in the back right there. Anyways, thank you all so much for coming out. I am now going to turn this over to my executive director, Jonathan Coleman.
Thanks, Jackson. Good evening, everyone. It's always great to see the deTour crowd, and it is hard to believe December 2023, we are wrapping up our 12th year of the Bluegrass Trust award-winning deTours. So we have visited hundreds and hundreds of spots, and this one tonight is an extraordinarily special one. The Bluegrass Trust has a long history with the Rankin House, and we'll walk inside, and our Dr. Zach Leonard, our historic preservation manager, will talk a little bit about that history and how the Bluegrass Trust made sure this building is standing today. But since it's our last deTour, I just wanted to take a moment and say thanks. It is always such a privilege, such an honor to get to access the many special places that we get to on our deTour program. And we're extraordinarily grateful to the folks who make that happen. Of course, first and foremost, our wonderful deTour committee, all volunteers. They help us select these sites. They help us manage the events themselves, flag down parking, all kinds of great things. So to our deTour committee, you all do a wonderful job, and we're so grateful. And of course, to my staff, we have to thank Jackson Osborne. He's our staff lead for the deTour program. He does a wonderful job. Very grateful for you, Jackson. And tonight, especially at the Rankin House, a few folks that I want to thank. First of all, really grateful to Alex Campbell. Sadly, we lost Alex this year. He was a huge proponent of preservation, and he stewarded this building for, gosh, close to, 50 years or so. Very long time. Really helped the Bluegrass Trust save this house back in the 70s. So just wanted to take a moment to honor him. Also wanted to thank Mary Vincentis, who has done a wonderful job in stewarding this building with the Campbell family for the past number of years. Was very helpful in its current restoration work, so very grateful to her. And of course, we're grateful to you for our donors, our supporters. Of course, it's December, and at a nonprofit, this is our annual fun time. And so if you've enjoyed the deTours this year, if you've enjoyed the programming of the Bluegrass Trust, if you've enjoyed our educational efforts, our services, our advocacy work. In fact, we're in a big fight right now next week, hopefully to save a whole block of Maxwell Street. So if you appreciate that work, consider supporting us. We're not state, federally, city funded, so it's folks like you all that keeps this community grassroots organization going. So thank you. We're really grateful. And with that, come on into the Rankin House. Let's get a little bit of history.
some brochures that I put together with historic maps and photographs and what have you. Got about 8 of these, so I might need to share. Visual material. All right, we got 2 more. Who wants to? So I guess the best place for me to go is probably up here. All right. So we all fit. This is cozy. My name is Zach. I'm the Historic Preservation Manager. I've done some research on this building. Some of it is on Instagram and Facebook, but I've embellished that a bit for you tonight. So just wanted to go over some of the notes I have. As you probably know, the Adam Rankin House dates to 1784. Specifically, that side of it dates to 1784. And this is constructed with squared dovetailed logs. If you go inside the little closet in the hallway, you can see the logs with the chinking in between. So that's fun. Started off as a 12 by 24 foot cabin, so the original living room was actually what is the dining room today. And it's notable for its very early stair hall with a well-developed staircase. That staircase is very precious. We like it very much. This house received an addition that you're standing in now sometime before 1794, which is when Rankin sold the house and moved to 343 North Limestone, which also stands and is a Bluegrass Trust flag property. So at that time, when the addition was constructed, this central hall was enlarged. Obviously, this section was added, and a new primary bedroom was placed overhead. The old bedroom over there was partitioned in half. The building also received a new brick chimney in place of the old stone one. So who was Reverend Adam Rankin, you may be wondering? He was born in Pennsylvania in 1755, and then he trained at Washington and Lee University in Virginia. Came out here in 1784 to take charge of the Presbyterian pastorate. And his church was also a log cabin that was located on Short in what is now MLK Boulevard. And in that role, he created a schism, a very infamous schism, by banning the singing of Isaac Watts hymns in favor of the traditional Psalms of David. This was called the Psalmody conflict. Yes, it has a name, the Psalmody conflict. And it got so contentious that Rankin had to pick up and move out to London, UK London, for a few years. Came back, became embroiled in it again until he was finally suspended for causing too much trouble. And in 1827, as one does, he left Lexington for the final time to go to Jerusalem, but he died en route. And on account of these escapades, one historian in 1912 described him, quote, as a strange, eccentric man, a dreamer of dreams, a Kentucky Luther, and perhaps a bit crazed. And incidentally, Rankin escalated this psalmody quarrel in 1793 by publishing A Process in the Transylvania Presbytery, and this was the first book published in Kentucky. Fun fact. So who lived in the house after Adam Rankin? Well, the successive owner was an abolitionist named Lawson McCullough, and his son, Samuel, also lived here. Samuel operated a girls' academy downtown for 14 years, and then he inherited the recipe for Burroughs mustard, started producing that. And in his elder years, you can find this article in the archives of the Herald Leader, Samuel recalled witnessing the burning of David Dodge's hemp factory, which stood opposite the house in its original location on West High Street, the site of what is now the First United Methodist Church. And the heat from that fire was so intense that it blew out the windows of the Rankin House completely. We had a similar event happen at Hopemont when the original Transylvania University building burned down. So, moving to the 20th century, we cannot tell the story of this house and its survival without talking about urban renewal in Lexington, which was one of its most infamous preservation debacles. So the urban renewal plan was adopted in 1965 and revised several times. This was a $10 million plan, 75% being federal money, that called for the demolition of 128 buildings and the rehabilitation of 141. And by 1969, the city had obtained title to 14 historic buildings on the north side of West High Street. It proceeded to sell the 200 block parcels to the Citizens Union National Bank and Trust Co., which intended to construct a complex for 1,000 employees. That's the big gold shiny building that's there today. Demolition began in October of 1969, 3 months after these buildings had been listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and this was the state's first historic district. And in a series of court cases, the Bluegrass Trust and the South Hill Neighborhood Association tried to fight the demolition, but unfortunately we were unsuccessful. The court ruled that we did not have sufficient standing. And other casualties of that demolition included the Asbury Methodist Episcopal Church, the 18th century David Dodge House, and the 1831 Hill Street Church. So in those little brochures, I think it's on page 3, you can see a sketch at the top of the houses as they would have existed. And while the bank claimed that it would integrate the Rankin House into its design, of course, it deemed this plan to be unfeasible. So at this point in 1971, the Bluegrass Trust intervened. We took on loans and we purchased the building. We moved it to the vacant parcel that we were standing on today, which was owned by the National Chemical Corporation. We bought it for $11,000 and we restored it largely with volunteer labor. On the last page, you can see some frat boys painting fences and different things.
What year was that?
1971. Yeah. So while we moved the wood frame and the log portion of the building, there were certain elements that could not be moved. In the 1840s, Daniel Burroughs put a brick cube-shaped library behind what would have been that wall. It was supposed to be fire retardant, but very difficult to move old masonry brick. There was also a one-story section and an open-air porch over on that side that would have overlooked downtown and the river way back when. So the Rankin House was sold at auction in 1972 to Alex Campbell for around $27,000. And the Bluegrass Trust continues to hold a conservation restriction on it today. Basically, that means that if you want to modify the exterior, you need to run it by us first. Any questions and comments?
Why was the orientation changed?
Well, that's a good question. Because when we bought this parcel, it was only that this is technically 2 different parcels, and it's still individually demarcated. So on the last page of that brochure, you'll see a fence, the one where you have the frat boys who work. Very skinny parcel, so that's why they had to place it like this.
But does the trust own this parcel?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the Campbell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is
But that was a later purchase than after we sold it.
I used to own the bungalow next door. So
Okay.
I always wanted to come in here.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure, based on the similarity to our floors in Hopemont, which is 1814, that those are Kentucky ash in there. Might be in here too. These guys look a bit different, but that's my guess for the central hall.
So you moved that chimney too?
No, that chimney, that's a new old chimney. You know. It's a replicant.
Is it with old bricks or something? It looks old.
Very well could be.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I'm curious about why Adam Rankin was such a strange person. What was the argument about the hymns?
He just refused to let people sing the hymns, and he said you can only sing the Psalms of David as they were traditionally sung, and this was his hobby horse, and he rode it until that horse died. And that this was something that, you know, there were formal religious trials over this within the Presbyterian Church. He was censured. It's like a whole thing.
Do you know the last time it was lived in?
So that's, where is
Rick?
Rick?
Hey, Rick, can we still get 40 seconds? This guy just threw a bid in.
When was the last time this was occupied by a resident? Do you know?
2010,
2010.
and there was a lady that rented the house from 1971 for 22 years, that was a college student, and then went on to help start UK's equine program. And then when she moved, there was someone here in 2010, and then in 2018 is when it was brought up to its current renovation. That phase 4 did a renovation on it, electric, plumbing, heating and air, kitchen, added the full bath, which before just had upstairs you'll see it just had a bathtub in the 3rd bedroom and then a sink and a toilet. So that was it was a pretty primitive situation. And then the Lexington History Museum was in here for 3 years. It's their office prior to moving to Bluegrass Trust.
Thank you.
And they were nice enough to lend us the interpretive.
Yes.
So I would say, as you are meandering into the stair hall, do look under the stairs at the original logs. Behind the plaster in this section, it's all log construction, but you can actually see them under the stairs.
Is there any video footage of the move?
Video footage, I have not come across any.
Who would have wanted to film that?
It would have taken a lot of film reel at that time.
Was it right across the street from the Methodist Church?
Yeah. So not too far removed, but still a complicated procedure. You know, the utilities companies basically donated their time to reorienting the wires.
Hey, everybody. Want a snack or a beer? Yeah.
Now, my understanding is this was the original part of the
This was the
building.
original, yes, that was the addition, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the original.
This
So
is
the
the
door
original.
and these two windows. Oh, okay.
West 6 Christmas.
Oh, it is Christmas. I might be tempted.